Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends Black Panther Legacy Collection. And as you can see, I'm talking about all of it. This group review comes as part of my effort to consolidate some reviews down to allow myself more time to make reviews as well as other videos. Funny enough, this is actually how I started out doing reviews, was reviewing entire waves at a time. And then I got more specific, reviewed each figure individually, but unfortunately that became very time consuming, especially as I open up my collecting and my channel to other toy brands beyond just Transformers. So we're gonna kind of go back to basics here, at least for the time being. That'll hopefully allow me to get more of these figures out there for you guys to see by lumping them together, and give me more time to do other things like news and leaks, long form presentation videos, all that fun stuff. So this Legacy collection consists of a total of 6 figures, all just slight recolors of previously released Black Panther adjacent characters. Most of these come from the M'Baku Build-A-Figure wave, including this guy, M'Baku himself, who is the Build-A-Figure for that wave, though there are some exceptions here too. So this being a group review is going to go a little bit differently than my single release reviews. Instead of starting out with all the packaging and talking about that for a while, and look at instruction and all that, we're going to get straight to the figures after just this brief introduction here. I'll take a quick look at each of the figures individually and then give my thoughts on this assortment as a whole. And then at the end of the video, like all my other reviews, I'll give my final thoughts. So this assortment is a little bit more than just a regular wave. 4 of the figures, which are this Black Panther, and then Killmonger, Shuri, and Nakia, are all general retail releases being released together like a standard wave. But then we get our classic suit Black Panther, or really Infinity War suit Black Panther, as a Walmart exclusive here in the US, and then M'Baku, who is previously a Build-A-Figure, being released as a single release as a Target exclusive. And this whole thing, I think, is just a chance to get people back up to speed before the new Black Panther movie comes out, Wakanda Forever, and give them a second chance to own characters that either aren't in the second movie, or appear in the second movie but with radically different looks and outfits. So that's really all this is. Think of it as like a catch-up assortment, though it is still missing a few notable entries in the Black Panther franchise. There's no King T'Chaka, there's no Ulysses Claw. They didn't do Okoye or any of the generic members of the Dora Milaje. Though to be fair, Okoye does get a new figure in the Wakanda Forever wave, and her look hasn't changed very radically from how she looked in the first movie, so maybe they just decided that one was too redundant. Alright, so that should kind of get you up to speed on what this is and give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'll start just from left to right and look at each one of these individually. Okay, our first figure is T'Challa in his kinetic Black Panther suit. So this was the upgraded suit he received toward the end of the Black Panther movie. And you can see it's got those distinct like pinkish purple lines all over it. And the special thing about the suit is that it could absorb kinetic energy that is thrown at it and then release it as like a big shockwave attack. So almost kind of like Cap's vibranium shield, but much more of a delayed release rather than just instantly, deflecting energy. So pretty cool. It is on a very impressive buck that's got all, unique sculpting that's specific to the suit with all the lines and the textures. The head is pretty decent likeness of Chadwick Boseman, the late great Chadwick Boseman. Really reflects how he looks in the Black Panther movie with his beard grown out. He's got butterfly joints in the chest, which are great for action and fighting poses. Got universal shoulders, bicep swivel, double elbow bend, universal wrists, a ab crunch, or an ab crunch, full waist swivel on a ratchet, universal hips, thigh swivel, double knee bend, universal ankles. So overall, a very nice, very posable toy. He's very sturdy, and he looks very good. And I love the fact that he gets his own unique buck and isn't just reusing like generic parts all over the place. So all in all, very good looking figure. He also comes with some extra hands in a like scratching position. He's getting ready to fight with his claws. So those look pretty cool. Shows off his nice shiny claws on the suit. And then of course he comes with a masked head, showing off the actual mask of this Black Panther suit with a lot of purple and silver. Even the eyes are that cool purple color. And this looks really nice. This may be my favorite like movie T'Challa figure because the suit looks awesome. The buck is awesome, and overall he just kind of oozes coolness. Our second figure is the Walmart exclusive Black Panther. And this figure is just a simple recolor of the one that was released to promote the first Black Panther movie, though the figure itself is a bit of an oddity. So the suit that he's wearing is actually the Civil War Black Panther suit, like the one from Captain America Civil War, which aesthetically I'm okay with because I think that suit was a lot cooler than the first suit he wore in the Black Panther movie, which is a lot more plain by comparison. The problem is that previous release and this one use a version of T'Challa's head that reflects how he looks in the Black Panther movie. Specifically the fact that his facial hair is now grown into a full beard. When this buck was first released to promote the Civil War movie, it had a very different head, which was clean-shaven to mimic how Chadwick Boseman looked in that movie, where he didn't have the beard yet. But it was also, unfortunately, very inaccurate to how the actor is supposed to look. So I think that may have been before they had the whole screen printing technology thing for the faces. Because if you look at some older MCU figures, the faces are just way, way off from how they're supposed to look. Nowadays, they generally look a lot closer. So yeah, the figure does present a little bit of a continuity headache, because he's got the wrong visage for Civil War, but then he's got the wrong suit for the first Black Panther movie. My personal recommendation, if you care about such things and you care about the accuracy, is to just leave the masthead on him and just put him on your Civil War display, because he'll just look most at home there. Alright, so anyway, looking at this guy, because his buck is taken from an older toy, it's not quite as good as the Black Panther we just looked at. It does lack the butterfly joints in the chest and back. It's got the full range of posability in the head with the ball joint and the hinge there. So the hinge is pretty tight. Universal shoulders, bicep swivel, double elbows, universal wrists, ab crunch, waist swivel, universal hips, thigh swivel, double knees, and universal ankles. So he's not bad. You know, he has about your standard amount of posability, but he is a little bit lacking when compared to, you know, the newer suit version. That's something that is a little bit of a shame, but I think it's just a product of the time. What's funny is the face sculpt they give this guy, while it's very similar to the purple suit version, he has a completely different expression where he's kind of smirking and looking sarcastically to the side, which does make for a very nice dynamic pose for, you know, any sort of display or anything you want to do. It also gives you the option of swapping this head with, you know, any other movie Black Panther figure if you just want to use that expression for them, because it should be more or less interchangeable. The downside with this sculpt, and really any sculpt where the character is not looking dead center, is that a lot of pictures only look good at certain angles, because otherwise he's just looking away from the photo and isn't the most photogenic thing out there. So it's neat, but it is a little more specialized than I would prefer. Alright, just like our purple suit, T'Challa, this guy comes with optional claw hands. Now, I believe the claw hands are a different mold than the ones that come with the purple suit T'Challa, but I can confirm that the fists are the same piece. So they didn't bother changing the fist pieces out. Claw hands are a little different. He's got the metal on the knuckle portion, whereas the other one doesn't, and the sculpting's a little bit different. Alright, go ahead, pop the head off, put the mask on. Ooh, that's tight. There it goes. Wow, that's a really tight fit. All right, now we get a much more classic looking Black Panther. And I'll say this is really cool looking. Like, he may be a little bit less posable than the other one, and he's not quite as flashy looking with like the purple energy highlights. But if you're wanting something that, you know, fits a live action aesthetic but looks more like the classic character, this is also a really, really good choice. And I mean, he just looks really awesome. The sculpted detailing, just the wicked claws, the spiked necklace, which is a bit more exaggerated on this release than some other suits. They just make for a very compelling looking toy. Now, like I said, it's a Walmart exclusive, so it may be a little bit harder to get a hold of than the others. The others I've seen all over the place, Walmart's, Target's, online. This guy, at least in the US, is going to have to be purchased at Walmart if you want to pick him up, so keep that in mind. Next up, we get Erik Killmonger, who is the villain of the first Black Panther movie. And I believe his Wakandan name is N'Jaka. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they call him N'Jaka, especially when he's like in his Black Panther garb. Because yes, he does become the Black Panther for a time, right? He becomes the king of Wakanda after defeating T'Challa and dons the suit. Although his suit is very much stylized to look more like a jaguar than a Black Panther. So it does help set him apart a little bit. even if he does fall into the common MCU trap of the bad guy just being an evil version of the good guy, which is most of the MCU like first standalone movies. The bad guy just ends up being almost like a palette swap of the good guy, which makes the fights very confusing. And that was a big thing that people criticized the first Black Panther movie for. That and the relatively shoddy CGI used to animate that, which for some reason was far worse than the rest of the movie. Alright, so this Killmonger, he's actually a re-release of a Killmonger that came in a 2-pack, which itself was a special re-release of the single-box Killmonger. The big difference being he now sported an unmasked head in addition to the masked one. All the other stuff was the same as far as the hands and weapons. This time, the handle on this is painted gold instead of black like the previous 2 releases. So this was just seen as more of a total package. And he was in a 2-pack with, I think it was Everett Ross, which is weird that we're getting another Everett Ross figure because his look hasn't changed much, but okay. So you can see this guy comes with more accessories than anyone else in this assortment. He's got his mask, he's got some weapon holding hands, and then he has 2 weapons, a sword and a spear that he took from that museum, right? The African exhibit. So all in all, very cool. His paint job is very nice. You can see some jaguar or leopard spots like all over him here. It's kind of black on gray, so it may be hard to see. They are printed all over his body, which is a nice look. Lots of texturing, just like the 2 other Black Panthers. The head is your typical ball joint hinge. He actually has butterfly joints, so that's very nice. Universal shoulders, bicep swivel, your double elbows, universal wrists, an ab crunch, waist swivel, universal hips, thigh swivel, double knees, and universal ankles. Now, I will say his ankles, the actual like rotating part of them here, swivel, they don't swivel easily. I don't know if that's something that's always been an issue with this mold or just my copy or what, but they don't swivel very easily, so he doesn't tilt his ankles very well. It requires a good bit of force, and they tend to want to like pop back into a more neutral position, so that may affect your posing on this guy. Other than that, everything about him is great. Everything feels good, all the joints and everything. Let's go ahead and swap out his parts. Give him the weapon holding hands. He's the only Black Panther in this assortment that doesn't have fists. It kind of makes sense, right? You want him to have the clawed hands, but then you also want him to be able to hold these weapons he comes with. Let's give him these. Boom. Swap the head. The masked head's going a lot more tightly than the unmasked ones, I'll tell you that. It takes a lot more force. Alright, look at that cool head sculpt, huh? Look at that paint job. That's scary looking, isn't it? You got a guy that looked like this barreling down on you, you'd be terrified. Alright, so he's got a sword in the one hand here, which is a little loose fitting, unfortunately. It tends to wobble around a little bit. A little better if you have him hold it more toward the base because it's fatter, but it's up to you how you want to do that, or maybe pull it through even more. And then we get the spear here, which again is going to have a kind of similar issue with the wobbling, so just get it where it fits well. Turn your head, buddy. Pose you up, make you look cool. Alright, so we have Killmonger sporting some of the ancestral Wakanda weapons that he stole and utilized in the movie. And again, he's just very cool. He has an excellent paint job, excellent sculpting, and comes with no dearth of accessories. Like, he is almost too much for a standard release in 2022. So I do appreciate him including everything from that 2-pack release. Alright, our 4th figure is T'Challa's little sister, Shuri, the tech genius and basically Q to T'Challa's Black Panther, coming up with all sorts of cool gadgets and even designing his suits, also being a very formidable combatant herself. So the Shuri figure, she's very small because Letitia Wright is quite small, and we will see the face sculpt is like perfect. I mean, she looks like Letitia Wright. Like, they really, really nailed it here. This is probably, in my opinion, out of this whole assortment, the most accurate face sculpt. Not that the others are bad. There's only one that I think looks kind of inaccurate here, and I'll touch on that here shortly. But this one just stands out to me as being near flawless. So you can see she has her signature face paint, having those dots all along her face there, little lines under the mouth. Hair's done up in a really cool bun. It's got lots of sculpted and painted detail there. The head is your ball joint hinge combo. She's got universal shoulders. She only has a single elbow bend with an elbow swivel, like a lot of smaller female characters. She gets universal wrists. She has a ball joint in the upper torso with no waist swivel, again, like many smaller female figures. She gets universal hips, though the outward motion can be blocked by her, I don't even know what you call this, skirt she wraps around herself. It can lift up a little bit to accommodate, but it only goes up so far. I guess in theory you could remove this if you were willing to try to take her apart. So she does have the universal hip, she has the thigh swivel, the double knee bend, and the universal ankles. Her feet, because of the way they're shaped and how narrow they are, can make balancing her a little bit tricky. Nothing awful, but she's not as sure-footed as some of the larger characters. And overall, I think she looks very cool. And she does come with some cool accessories, you can see. She has her little shock gauntlet things that she uses in the movies. And they're made to look like Panthers. How cool is that? They even have the paint on the eyes and everything. They got this cool blue effect around the neck area. And then they even have this little, like, taser blast thing coming out of them. So, very, very cool. They just clip right on her wrists. Feel them pop into place here. So that you can make Shuri ready to defend her home, defend her people. Look very awesome doing it. So, yeah, you get something like this. And, you know, she doesn't come with a lot. You know, she's kind of the opposite of old Killmonger there, where he had a lot of stuff for that $25 price point. She's a little bit lacking. But, you know, that's going to happen, right? You're not going to get the exact value for your money every single time. And Shuri's an important enough character to where they need to put a toy out. So unless they really felt like going back and revisiting this thing and doing more than just recoloring it, this is just what we're going to get. And it's fine. Like, if you're okay with maybe paying a little more for what this figure is actually worth, I think you'll still like it. It's a very, very good figure of Shuri. And I think the only way they would have likely updated this at all is maybe just give her a couple extra hands to swap out, because nothing else really needs to be changed, unless they want to do a whole new head sculpt with like a different expression. Now we get to look at our only other female character in this assortment. This is T'Challa's good friend and, well, would have been love interest if he didn't die, Nakia. And this to me is an amazing, amazing looking figure. When you look at all the sculpted detailing, all the paintwork that went into this, I'm not even mad that she's small, because clearly there's a lot of paint budget here. But look how good all that looks. It's amazing, right? She has a really cool asymmetrical shoulder armor, which I like. She's got like the bracelets, like the mini bracelets going on here. The belt's awesome, like the flaps, everything, the boots. Very well done. And the head sculpt, I will say, is gorgeous. Like, it looks so good. Unfortunately, the one thing it doesn't look like is Lupita Nyong'o, the actress. Like, it really doesn't look much like her at all. So, I don't know what happened there. The likeness, you know, kind of fell off. So, that is a downside. The face sculpt could be closer to the source material. But for what it is very nice looking. The hair's done up very well. It's even got the little earrings on it. So I still like it, despite the inaccuracy. She's got your ball joint and hinge combo in the neck, your universal shoulders. Now on this shoulder, the armor can get in the way a little bit, so she can only lift her arm about that high, which is unfortunate, but still looks cool. She's got the single elbow with the swivel, just like Shuri, universal wrists. She also has the ball joint in the upper torso, without an actual waist swivel, unfortunately. Though, you can see she gets a lot of range out of this ball joint. She can really do like sit-ups and everything. She's got the universal hips, thigh swivel, double knees, and your universal ankles. So, more or less the total package, or at least, you know, for the lithe female type character. It's only been fairly recently that Hasbro's really stepped up as far as increasing the posability of these smaller characters, because they had to get kind of creative with how they did that. And then, of course, here we can see she comes with the two signature weapons, which I believe they're chakrams, aren't they? Pretty sure that's what these are. Bleeded circles, basically. And they can be a little finicky to get in her hands just because her fingers are closed so tightly, at least out of the package. Something you could probably loosen up over time, so you may have to play with them a little bit to get everything where it needs to be. Come on, take it. There you go. You know you want your weapon. Let's go. Take the weapon. Just be careful, right? Don't like snap the fingers off or anything. All right, so I got one. One out of two. Let's get the other one in there. you can tell that the fingers kind of go back to their factory position pretty easily, because I got these in there pretty easily when I was taking her out of the box and messing with her. It's already hard to get them back in. All right, here we go. Now, Nakia looking really cool. 2 weapons here, glowing with energy. And she just looks awesome. She's so dynamic looking. Very curvy, if I might say. Very flattering. Yeah, I mean, I think she looks awesome. And I think it's a really neat figure. I do like her a little more than the Shuri figure, just because she's a lot more intricate. Though again, the one place she really fails is that face accuracy. Because I don't know what they modeled this after, but I have a hard time believing they actually scanned the actor's face, and that's what they ended up with. Though, those recent Selfie Series figures may explain it, because those look rough. And for the amount they were charging for them, I expected a lot better. I didn't buy one, thankfully, because I think I would have been really disappointed, because the ones I've seen are just very blurry and bloated looking. So maybe that's what happened here. Maybe just a bad face scan or something. And lastly, we get our Target exclusive M'Baku, who is in the new movie, but I guess he just kind of looks the same, so rather than release a new toy, they just re-released this one. And again, this was the Build-A-Figure for a lot of the first Black Panther movie figures, and now they've gone ahead and just reassembled them as his own release, which is not unheard of. They do that a lot. Like the recently released Apocalypse used to be a Build-A-Figure. Now what's interesting though, is despite the fact that he used to be a bath, I noticed that his limbs, like, they don't pull out very easily. A lot of the time when you get these toys that used to be baths, and you just move them around and like the limbs pop out. He's solid though. Like, I'm not gonna put a ton of force on this guy, because I don't want to break it or damage it. But like, nothing's just popping out, you know what I mean? Like, everything's in there just as solidly as like any old release. So that's pretty cool. I think he looks awesome. Unfortunately, that's about all I can say about him, because he's not very posable. He's hefty, and he feels like a good deal for the standard Legends price point. He's got the typical head articulation, which is fine. And he has universal shoulders, but they're very much hindered. Like, they don't lift up easily because you have this armor on here, and then you also have his little cloak thing or shawl, which does come off, by the way, if you do want to take it off. It plugs in with a little thing. Now, it does help raise the shoulders up, because it's less in the way, but you shouldn't have to take it off to have a free range of motion. I mean, you can get them, but you're really fighting against this thing. It really pulls on it. Other than that, he does have a bicep swivel. He's got the double elbows, which is nice. And he has the universal wrists, though they're kind of hampered by his really thick wrist armor here. He's got a ball joint in the upper torso, and then he lacks a waist swivel. It's probably just because of all the stuff on here, they felt it was kind of pointless. This skirt is like its own piece. It just kind of flops around. He does have full leg articulation, and you'll kind of just have to take my word for that, because you can't see it very well. He does have the universal hips. He does have a thigh swivel. He does have the double knees, though this really gets in the way of bending the knees beyond like a small bend. And he does get the universal ankles. So like the posability, the articulation, it's engineered in there for the most part. You just can't access a lot of it because of how he comes together. So that's something that is a bit of a shame. I really would have liked to be able to pose him a lot more dynamically. You can see he also comes with this big staff right here. It's pretty simple. I believe it's supposed to be made of wood, so it has kind of an irregular shape to it, very organic looking. And it has it's supposed to be shaped like a person, maybe, like there's a chest and the neck and the head. I'm not sure. It's a pretty simple accessory. Just holds it in his hand, and he can hold it. Just stand there looking regal. He can like two-hand it, get ready for a fight. I don't know. Again, doesn't do a lot, and posing him any really dynamic way is going to be kind of difficult. So, looks cool, doesn't play very well. Like, works best as just a very, very static display piece. And this completes our look at the new Black Panther Legacy Collection. I personally think these figures are very cool. I don't have a lot of qualms with them. Probably the worst thing is just M'Baku not being very posable. Aside from that, I think they all look great. They have excellent paintwork, excellent sculpting. Now, these don't have a lot to offer somebody who already went in on these previous waves and picked up the older versions of the figures. Right? They're only minor repaints, just making some tweaks here and there, and not all of the changes are positive, right? Where, for every paint app they add, they might lose one, or they might change it to a color that's not very accurate. like in the case of Killmonger's sword handle. So there are, some pros and cons to them. They're really meant to just be a catch-up, right? Just for people that didn't get the old toys, and then it gives you a way to collect the characters and even get M'Baku, who normally you would have to collect an entire wave to assemble. So I do appreciate that. I like the fact that they made that BAF a lot easier to get a hold of for people that missed out. The funny thing is that the old Black Panther toys initially did not sell very well. They actually went on clearance very, very often, and it wasn't until Chadwick Boseman passed away that these things like skyrocketed in price, right? Because that's what happens when, some artist or actor or something passes away, their merchandise tends to become very pricey. So yeah, I think Hasbro realized these are really hard to get a hold of, but they still want to be able to give people their Black Panther toys and market, for the movie coming up and really flesh out the assortment beyond the new Wakanda Forever wave. So I think this is a good way to do that. And I think these are all really, really solid. I would have preferred if they had included a few more characters. Like, it's weird that Claw's missing because he was one of the major villains, and that King T'Chaka toy is also very, very cool. So those would have been nice if, your regular assortment was a full 6-figure assortment, and then you had your 2 exclusive on top of that. But for what we got, it's still very nice. And plus, a lot of those missing characters, like your T'Chaka and Claw, you can get for fairly cheap. In fact, I recently just picked them up on clearance from Amazon. So maybe that's why they weren't re-released, because those particular ones just didn't go up very much. I'm not sure. But yeah, if you are someone who did miss out on these the first time, like myself, who wasn't collecting, I think these are great. And I think if you don't already have these, you're really going to love them, because they're very, very well done. There are very few flaws on these toys. The sculpting, all that, like I said, is just phenomenal. But if you did pick these up during their initial run, there's virtually no reason to get these, unless you are the most hardcore of completionists that needs every single little variant of a toy, because these are very, very close to the old releases. So, it's a very situational recommendation. They're great if you missed out, kind of pointless if you didn't. Of course, that is just how I feel about these toys. So now I want to know what you all think of them. Are you a fan of these? Did you pick them up back in the day and you liked them back then? Or you didn't and you're looking forward to getting them now? Or do you not like them? Either because you just hate the idea of them just being repaints and you figure it's lazy and it's a cash grab, which kind of cash grab. Or maybe you just don't like the figures for what they are and you never had an interest in them. Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Marvel Legends Black Panther Legacy Collection. And with all that said, I will see you next time.